Yes, thank you. Do you hear me? Thank you. So, yes, so my name is Andrea, and I'm a passionate data scientist. So what I have learned during my years in or after academy is that it's not enough to just love algorithms and try to solve them. To be able to do it, I really need to explain why this is beneficial for a company and also understand how I make it beneficial for a company. So I will just try to give some insights how I managed to do it better and better for every time I tried. And this is, So it's just my perspective from when I had a project at Stena Stål, where we actually come to an end, where we collaborated with many people to create an actual ML product. And to just give some first fluffy recommendation is to take the chance. When I come to Stena, I knew this was a really good opportunity because I had a really good customer, I had a good manager, I had really good teamwork, that our combination of intelligence was correct for this assignment. What I was more skeptical about was the problem I'm going to solve, but everything else was so good, so I just wanted to take the chance. And this time, I also refuse to be the unicorn data scientist. Just because I get passionate and solve a problem is not equal that I can solve every problem within an end-to-end solution. So I was clear why this is like this time. And also, this time I was given real time to actually solve the problem. So if you want a good problem, I need to also have time to think about it, because that's the key solution to even have in the end. And also, it was such a good transparency in the beginning when we started to work on this, and it was so open and it was so easy to ask these stupid questions. And just focus on the culture, because you can create so much with it. So now to the concrete. How did we even start all this? So the first thing was that we had a really good, fruitful workshop. I was not included. And I mean, do not include too many people, because I had been too skeptical to this. So just include the ones that really need to be included here. So I was entering afterwards. So this was for Stena Stål. So just give a short background. Stena Stål is a wholesaler. They basically just buys, store, and sells steel products. Not mainly for the private buyer, but for these big industries like car industry and buildings industry. So they don't even have an IT or software product in their core business. So we really needed to start very weak. So they explained to me the process and why they come up with this problem formulation for me. And everything I started, what data do they have? It's so much easier to test something if we have data. So they have, perfect. For example, historical prices on the steel product. So they started to store this for a reason. So how are they using it today? So they already have it in an interactive visualization tool to get a good overview of the business. And that, of course, gives them better business decisions to see how the order is coming, how the prices have changed over time, and so on. But is there anything that they would use or that they're missing in this dashboard? So, of course, they already have a good intuition on their business. Stena Stål have been around for a while, they have a stable business, and the key is that they already have a good intuition of it. But if there was something they could think about was that they were too afraid to take business decisions sometimes, so they make it too late because it feels risky. We were asking them that, is there anything that we could provide to them that can make them more comfortable making these risky decisions? So we're looking at the characteristics of these prices and why are they feeling risky. And that's because they are really highly volatile prices, or many of them. They have a lot of different steel products, and they have long delivery time. And together with volatile prices and long delivery time until they have them, it's key essential to really buy when it's cheaper and sell it when it's more or when it's higher price. Otherwise, it would be very bad business. And all this volatile market they are selling to. So what they ended up with this conclusion was that they wanted, of course, a model that can predict the price in the future. But also to be clear here, we are not going to create a model that's going to predict future price as a decision maker. It's just going to be an extra tool for them. So if they want to do a business decision but are feeling it a little bit risky, if a model also tells them that you should do this decision, they will be more comfortable making it. And if they do just some few of these decisions every year, it will be profitable. So now we are focusing on something that will be profitable. So we had a workshop that ended out really well. Took 8 hours, now entering me. So I'm the data scientist trying to solve this problem. For 6 weeks I'm given. Of course I'm skeptical. I'm going to predict future prices. If I could do that, I would not even be working, right? So, but I'm just so positive because the customer is so positive and I just want to be a data scientist. So just to give a short background of the problem statement. So the vision is to have this predictive model for 30 different models. But we just want to start small. We want to have the focus here in this proof of concept on the actual problem solving. So we just choose a small collection. And we also want to prepare data as fast as possible. So we don't put too much time in that here. So we just collect some internal data we think of interest and some external data that is easy to collect. So just have a test base that we're to prove it. And also this is key essential. So, or at least in this case, we were putting up a lot of this continuous meeting during the POC phase. So I can come there as a data scientist with my findings and I can get feedback. Is this even relevant? How does this look? And again, get time to focus on the problem. If you have 6 weeks, it's a big difference to have them simultaneously than have one afternoon every Friday for half a year. If you want to solve this complex problem. So just look at it. This is just a fake price, but it kind of looks like this. So when it comes to time series, and we don't have this time data that are suitable for this typical ARIMA processes, and we want to take in a lot of different external factors here. So we want some simple predictive model, and they also want to interpret the result of it. They don't want it too black boxy, and we don't have enough data to make it too black boxy here. So as a data scientist, and especially a mathematician, I'm so skeptical, to use this data, because it's very hard to have test data. You really want to have actual test data to know you're not overfitting your model. And also, the many models I'm trying with have base assumption that this would be independent data points, and I don't know if they are. I don't feel like that. And also, models are only valid on the range of data they are trained on. That's very tricky with inflation, because it's very highly that you want your model to predict price values that the model isn't even trained on. So, plus, we have had these troubled times, with the COVID and everything, so we have a test data that looks like this. Yeah, it's not like the dream case for a data scientist to solve, right? And if there is one thing I have learned in all data scientist projects I've been in, is when you start to think that, maybe we should just exclude this part of the data. We just skip it because the models are not performing well and it's a special time. When you start to, in some way trying to change the reality to suit the models, it never ends good, I just say, or at least not for me. So we were fail fast thinking, we are thinking on another way instead. So we make a classification problem from this. Asking the stakeholders, is there any key point in percentage change that are important for you? Like maybe they are not just interested on the actual price, just that they are going up or down significantly much. So it was. So we instead created these 4 classes where we have heavy rise when the price have increased with over a percentage in Y month. So now we have much more promising target, because now we can validate that we have a model that is trained for the event and how much it has been trained on all events. Perfect. So during this continuous meeting with the stakeholders, we have really fast thinking idea of this. So continuous target, making classification target, and now also now we have a classification target, now the features with values maybe are not as relevant. So we're creating trend features instead, because we're only interested from a state point and how the trend is continuing. And also, I'm a mathematician, I'm using my strength. And it's so easy to just follow these, step by step from scikit-learn or some blog post on how to do things, but what does it actually mean? Now when we have trend feature, what does it mean when we do an interaction between them? So we did some smart scaling before to make it more suitable for what we want, what we think two interactions should mean in this sense. So after some lot of experimental things, focusing on this creativity here on the actual problem, what it means. And also, we create a lot of features, only have models that can handle some couple of features of them. So we are also focusing on doing some good feature selection. And all of a sudden, we now have 3 out of 8 products that are actually predicting very well. So maybe now it's start to shift focus. Maybe it's not the model that is the problem anymore. Do we even have information in the data now that can contain this information? So with discussions, we added 2 more data sources. And with this methodology, the same methodology, we now have 6 out of 8 products that are showing really promising results. So we are so happy after 6 weeks that we made this, because we never thought it even was possible, or at least me. The customer was super excited. I thought this was possible. So I know how valuable this is. I know how hard it is. So now, now comes the tricky part. I also need to convince people that doesn't know ML algorithms that this actually is a good result, because they have seen so many PowerPoints with good accuracies and yada yada, and then it doesn't work. So one tip, never underestimate power of a good presentation. Now I'm going to present this for top management at Stena Stål. So you have 30 minutes, and they have so much on their table, it needs to be clear. And never underestimate the intelligence of top management. This is a company that are stable for a while, and they are there for a reason. So I just assume they are highly intelligent people. So that's also key. But also explain it super, super clear. Your findings and your conclusion and why. Again, they have seen accuracies before. Explain how your accuracy is working. And don't lie, like I only have a test phase. Of course, I'm choosing the models that are predicting good on the test phase. So I'm also very honest, we need to let the time passes to really know how well they adapt to the future. Super clear. I mean, Hans Rosling clear. If you can explain it so clear as Hans Rosling, you will never have a financial problem in this area. Because in the end, people buy what they understand, and especially in troubled times. But sometimes, of course, they buy it because they want to just have a slogan, oh, we are doing AI and so on. But if you want, I like more when you do something that actually is valuable for a company. And now, when they see this, don't be afraid to explain the potential risks, because here you get the money if you explain it to them, because they see money now. This is what they have in their head all the time when you're sitting there, because they need to make sure the income is more than the expenses. And I have just told them that their profit can increase with these models. It's a potential for that. So I need to explain to them how much the expenses will be, and if you do some effort in the beginning to automate things, the less the expenses will be. So they just want to know that the potential income is higher than the expenses for this product. So now is everyone super happy, and we are almost done with the POC phase. So even if they like this, they see money and everything, we need to make a plan, just a rough plan, not with details, but they still need to know that we know how to deploy it. So. But we know that in the end, we want an interactive dashboard that are showing this prediction and scaling it up to around 30 different products. So now we need to make that. So what we want, basically, is just that we have our external data sources and internal data sources, and we want to put in them into 30 different models, and then it will go to an interactive and be showing in an interactive dashboard. Okay. I know this is not easy. This is so complex to make all this go together. But we just do a rough thing, what is actually going to need here. So we have our data sources, and we need some kind of integration of the APIs and so on. We need some platform for storage and operating something. We know that. We need some raw container. We need to make some pipeline, typical data engineering job to make it clean, so it's easy to model. We don't have super, computationally inefficient models here, but we still need some ML platform to train our models. And we also need to write it in software code because it's going to scale up and everything and be suitable for an ML platform. And then we need to put these predictions in some storage that is connected to this interactive dashboard. That's very simple way how to what we need. But what we know in this case, we don't have some weird external sensors that is hard to get data from. We don't have some super big scale of data to handle here, so we know this is possible, at least. We know this has been done before. But also remember now, when you set up this, this is the product the customer buys and sees and uses. So, and their priority is good predictions. They don't care if the pipeline between raw and cleaned here is the best logic code ever written. As long as if the predictions are bad, they don't care. But so if they have good predictions and it's user friendly, they understand it. Then they care about correct data, because now they love the product. And if it comes in bad data, they really want someone that have the best logic ever, that they never have some technical problems. So just remember about the priority here when you think this through, especially when you do it for a small company, because they don't have the money to for you to fail here a lot. You need to make it the first time, or not the first time, but you need to prioritize and make some work in it. So now we are happy. Now we have a plan, moving on to this minimum valuable product. And that's also what we say, that we need some first time to really think and let the time go and see if the models are still relevant. And so we need to keep our focus on development, but still start to automate some data flows to start building the end-to-end solution, and also map up the competencies. Here is the time you need to be clear so you don't become the unicorn data scientist. Here you need to map up what competencies do you have and what do you need and what do you need to take in and so on. And then we will have this A/B testing. I don't know really what to call it in this sense, but here we just need to know you test different models with a group of users, so we build it for the users so they like it, you know. So now we need to prioritize then. So remember, they care about good predictions. So we started to build this ML algorithm adaptable to the ML platform, and really check out what is in here, because it's developing and increasing with new features all the time. So don't overdo some work that are already easy to integrate with, because here you are storing the models, setting up training jobs on clusters that you need, and you need to health check models. This is a prediction on future. So here is key that you know that your models are still relevant, because the economy changes all the time. So I will focus on to set up this for your problem if you're working with it, what is important for you. And then we of course need to prepare interaction tools, so in the next phase they are still looking, they have something to look at. And then we start to wrap up all the other things. So that was a priority for us, but that's different for everyone. So after 4 months, do you know how nervous I am when they're going to try the models on actual data to make sure I'm not have been overfitting the models? But it's actually showing promising results. So we are super happy. So we make the minimal valuable product phase and going into the next phase, where we continue to develop these models, and now we do it with a small group of people, so we really get the user comfortable with these models and what it is. And we scale it up to more products and so on. So, and also this end-to-end flow I showed, of course we can't do everything perfect. We don't have time for that. But try to optimize it during this phase so it's as low maintenance as possible in the end, in the service phase. So, we also have, you see. So now, it's up to prove again. So after 3 months, the model still shows surprisingly good results. So it's, every month you're going there, oh, are you still predicting good, are you still predicting good? And they are. So it's super fun. So now they even try, like, they are going to make a test decision. Or not even a test decision, they are doing an actual business decision on this. So that means that they thought that, okay, it's too risky to make this decision. But then they said, okay, look at the models. What does the model says? And the model says it's okay to do it now. That would be more profitable. So they do it. And that decision paid off 13% of the total project cost at that time. So, yes, that was like a very happy moment as a data scientist that you finally did something you knew could pay it off. And now it's going to see how the future evolves and how relevant it is, how to keep this model intact and relevant and how to retrain it. That's a new type of thinking in that. So that made it that phase. So yeah, that was everything for me.
Andrea, thank you so much for an incredible, interesting presentation. And it seems like organizations, they have no problem to do the workshops, they do the POCs usually, but then it seems like a lot of organizations are struggling to kind of take it further. So thank you so much for sharing those insights.
Thank you for coming.
We do have some time for questions in the room. So I encourage you to think about your best, most interesting questions and ask them to Andrea. Do we have any questions in the room? Yes, we have one over here.
Thank you for a really good presentation. In this case, there was a clear idea going into it. Had already been a workshop, and there was an idea. Do you also have cases where it's more like explorative, where it's companies that say, "Hey, we have all this data. We don't really know where, these technologies or machine learning or AI could be useful for us." Do you also do assignments like that? And if yes, like how do you approach a more open-ended project like that?
Yes, we do that. Mostly I'm not in that workshop stage, but of course we have people in my company that are going out, or not of course, we have, and where we are setting up these workshops where we're trying to figuring out where we can find this low-hanging fruit, where is the best to start, and given their business and their need, because that's always ways to. You need two different kind of competences to really find these things, and I would give it a lot of effort, because that's when you have a really good start. Because it's hard to have the finances for something if it starts to get irrelevant in some way.
Great, thanks so much for that. We have another question here towards the front. Yeah, I believe the mic is on its way.
Thank you for the talk. I have a question there around the testing and so on. How was the baseline and the sort of metric how to define success, how to define? Was that in the workshop phase, or did you need to do some basically work there as well to see like, okay, what's actually a good result?
Yeah, that was a question we were discussing a lot, because we had these 4 classes in the end with heavy rise and heavy drop and rise and drop. So, and of course, a prediction that are making heavy, or am I talking about what you're asking for? Yeah. And if you have heavy rise and it predicts heavy drop, of course, that's a bad prediction than if it predicts rise. So you need to make some reward factor for that, or that's what we did in the end. And also, for some product groups, it's more for them important to know the heavy drop factor. That's more important for them. So that's a more successful algorithm. So you need to have the conversation with them to optimize it to the right things.
But did they then define something like this success threshold? Like we actually use this in production ahead of time, or was that like developed through the process?
We are showing like this model that we are using now in this interactive dashboard is predicting correctly on these phases and is trained up to this threshold and so on. So you need to create a visualization tool so they understand what the model is able to do. And we also even said that the model says this price will drop significantly between, say, January and April. And then it's green. It's like, okay, and on this occasion, it told the truth. Here it's not tell the truth. So we were really creative in finding a way for them to understand what it meant.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much for that. I have a question, actually. So is there a particular reason why you say like the data scientist is not partaking in the workshop stage, or was that just in that instance that it was like that? Or what's your opinion on this?
I think I would just be too skeptical to the problem. I'm actually the one that's going to predict future prices, and that's quite a bold statement to say that I think I can do that, or I felt that. That's why it felt like now when I look back to it, I see it was very lucky I wasn't there. But now I start to get more optimized or be more optimistic about the solutions that feels very hard to do, because in a quarter, of course, you have just thought about it in a quarter. It's so big difference of thinking about probably 6 weeks.
Yeah. And talking about model governance and lifecycle management, could you tell me a little bit about this topic of lifecycle management? So these predictive models and government, like how can you ensure that they stay accurate and relevant over time? And is this a work that ends up on your table, or can this organization usually handle that themselves?
I would for sure say that it's good to have a data scientist to validate it. I'm not the one that they're now doing it because it's lower. We say it's not needed 100% data scientist to do it. But I think it's good with MLflow and these kind of stuff, or it doesn't need to be MLflow, but you have your champion model that you think, but you also have some other competing models that you can look at different metrics and see if is there another model that are better now, and see if there are new features that are more relevant to the future prices now. So I think that's a whole new research area to keep the models relevant.
Right. We have time for one last question in the room, if there is someone that wants to ask one last. Yes, over here on the side.
Yeah, I was curious about how you set up the infrastructure. Was it something that was already there at your company, or was it cloud-based, or did you have to set something up at the company?
We checked the resources at the company. So they have, for example, integration engineers. So there we were outsourcing it to that team, for example, and they were starting to, in general, how to put up this cloud-based data platform, or what you call it. So we tried to map it together with the ones that were responsible for that. But of course, I'm not the one who was setting up that kind of architecture, but it was, of course, it was cloud-based at least, and they started to have map up competences within the company as well. So it was a teamwork between.
Great. Andrea, it's been a privilege to have you here. Thank you so much for your presentation. Give her a hand.
Thank you so much.